video on Filo Pastry. Well, maybe it's not Filo Pastry, but it's going to be something very similar. So, 400 grams of plain flour, the all-purpose in the rest of the world, but plain flour, the stuff that you use to make pastry rather than cakes. That's what type of flour I'm using. There's 400 grams of it, and we need some salt. So I looked at recipes, and I don't believe any of them. So we're going to wing it, I think. And I made it before, and the pastry and the recipe was wrong. I had to end up with loads more flour. So we'll kind of see. It's when I think the problem with the recipe that I looked at, the recipes that I looked at, were using cups, and you kind of different cup sizes, and equate to different amounts of grams, and I just thought there's just some mistakes somewhere. So 400 grams of pastry, of flour, pinch of salt, and then a teaspoon of baking powder, which I'm not going to do a heaped one, so we'll call it that size, a rounded heaped one. 2 teaspoons of vinegar. This is Heinz distilled malt vinegar. As long as it's not like the brown malt vinegar, I think it should be fine. Any kind of vinegar that you've got. So 2 of those. Don't need a teaspoon anymore. I can go in the sink. And then olive oil, a mild one. So it's not extra virgin. Extra olive oil I find a little bit too strong in flavour and peppery. So a tablespoon of that. And then this is where I think the recipes that I looked at, they all put too much water in. So what do we reckon? We'll go for 3 tablespoons of water to start off with, and then we'll see how we go. And I'll work out how much is in a tablespoon of water when we finish. So give it a mix around. I'm certainly going to need another tablespoon of water. So now I've got messy hands, so that's 5, isn't it? That's 5 tablespoons. And then another one, so that's 6 tablespoons. The recipe that I looked at put 15 in, and I was like, that's way too much water for that amount of flour. Now what I'll do, what's that like as a dough? Get some of that in there, and then we'll take that dough out of there, and I reckon another tablespoon, so what's that, 7. Let's call it 8 tablespoons. Yeah, there we go, 8 tablespoons, I'm sure. I'll re-watch the video and count to make sure. So that's a bit of that. That's soft enough that that's going to pick up all that flour, and then we need to knead for 5 minutes until we've got a nice soft dough. Once we've mixed it all together, on the board now, that'll be fine. So that there, like that. It smells nice. Smells of the olive oil. So knead it just like you would prior to picking up all the bits. This is my kneading board, and it's a little bit messy. It's not particularly smooth, but it's the only thing that it gets used for. You've just got to be careful when you're kneading things. If you do it on top of a counter, or the top, your kitchen tops, flour's abrasive. So what it can do is, over time, it will take the shine off your worktops. And if you do it long enough, it'll even wear its way through the plastic coating on your countertops. Or if it's wood, it'll slowly dull it over time. So give it a knead for 5 minutes, that's the process of giving it a knead. You don't need to see me kneading for 5 minutes and me puffing and panting. I think that's be okay, yeah. That's kind of what we want as a dough. So we need to bring it together, and what I'll do is, and the gluten's going to start being activated, and we'll get a much better dough. Could do it in the machine, but might as well do it by hand. There's no point making washing up. So yeah, we'll need this for 5 minutes, and we'll see how it is. It's had 5 minutes. It's not particularly smooth, but it's nice and soft. So I think it's going to roll out really well. It'll need some more flour when I'm going to use the pasta machine to roll it out. We might use a rolling pin as well. We might try that method. But it's nice and soft. It's not particularly smooth because my rolling board isn't particularly smooth either. So that needs to rest for an hour. I've got two thoughts about resting. Hang on, I just need something up here. When you rest pastry and dough and things like that, I think a lot of it is to help it relax, but it's also to let the water molecules completely saturate all the flour. I think that's kind of quite important as well. So you get an even distribution of water throughout everything, and the flour completely soaks all water up into itself. If that kind of makes sense to me. But anyway, so we'll give it a rest for an hour, just back in the bowl, and then, because it's not going to fit, I'll get another one. And because I don't like plastic waste, I think of all the plastic that you put in the bin, I think it's a little bit atrocious. Just a shower cap over the top of the bowl, like that, so it's just an old lady shower cap, which I've used for years and years and years and years and years. So I've never had to. I've cut down my plastic waste, which I think is a good idea. Has been resting in the fridge for more than an hour because I've been doing other things. So let's give it a go with the pasta roller, and then we'll have a go with the rolling pin. So it's made about 600 grams of pastry. It feels like it's going to be okay. It feels like it's not going to need too much flour. It's going to turn out okay. So we've got a mixture of corn flour and plain flour in there. So just give it a bit of a dust, and we'll give it a go. So starting off on the thicker setting, I'll just give it a couple of turns through, I think, just to start it off. I don't think I'll be able to get it as flat as normal Filo, but we'll see how we go. Flat. I mean, as thin as normal Filo. Let's see how we go. Right, so that's that one. So we'll go down to the next setting. And then the next setting. Bit of flour. So I can't remember if I turned the dial last time. It's through again, just to make sure. Right, and then the thinnest one. So I can already half see my fingers through it. Getting Filo really thin is extremely difficult, and it takes great skill. I don't think I've got that skill, but the pasta roller will get it thin enough. I mean, it's not paper thin. It could do, if there was another setting on it to go thinner again, I think that would be the setting that we kind of need. But it works in the pasta roller. That's alright. So it's not as thin as Filo should be. but it'll do the job that I want it to do. So, need a knife, and then I think these will be, it'll be a good width to make some samosas. Mixture of, well, I opened a jar of beef Brazil, no, pork Brazil by mistake, so we're going to use that in the samosa filling, and some mozzarella. So, dessert spoon. That's a teaspoon, but that's about a dessert spoon size. And how do I remember we do this? I've got some water as well. And a brush. That'll make things easier, won't it? Man, so no, they're going to be too big. That like that, like that. That's rubbish, is that? I should be ashamed of myself. I should be ashamed of myself with that. We can do better than that. But anyway, squish the air out and then chop off. That's rubbish. I should be ashamed of myself. Absolutely ashamed of myself. We can do better. Struggling with Filo today. That's what we'll call the video. So, that amount and that, and then over like that. They'll probably turn out really nice when they're fried, fingers crossed. Like that. And then there. I'm not particularly proud of this. But it'll be certainly cheaper than buying Filo Pastry. They're way too big. We'll see how we go. I can't remember what I did last time. Can't remember. I must have made them smaller. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll make spring rolls. So we'll do a spring roll version. That'll probably be better. So, filling in. Right the edges. Over once, and then fold that in, fold that in. There we go. Right. I'll pause, we'll reset, and we'll try and roll some out with. See, that looks nice and neat, doesn't it? The spring roll looks certainly a lot nicer and neater than the pathetic samosas. But anyway, I've got a tray, so I'll put them on the tray, and then we'll have a go at rolling out with a rolling pin. See if we can get them any thinner, because you might not have a pasta rolling machine. That's that. away that there. Right, so we'll pause and we're back with, we'll try it rolling out by hand. Right, let's have a go at rolling by hand. This will be interesting. So, I'm using a chopping board to roll it on. I don't like rolling things on top of the worktops because, yeah, more flour is abrasive. I've already said that earlier in the video. I don't think this is going to want to roll out. It probably doesn't want to roll out because it's been kneaded for 5 minutes. So it'd be quite a tough dough. Let's see how we go. I might have benefited from not having as much flour on the board, so the dough had something to grip to. But it might just because it's a little bit cold. My advice is buy a pasta roller. No, I can do. I thought I might do as well. We'll see how thin I can get this. And then we might do another batch through the pasta roller and then see if we can roll it by hand just that little bit thinner. But I could do with a bigger board as well, or rolling less pastry. And it's rolling easier now, it's thinner. Let's cut that off. Just concentrate on the smaller bit. Seems I haven't got skills. I think the chopping board is a bit wonky as well. Yeah, I think the chopping board is a bit wonky. So, I might get to give this up as a bad job. Is it thinner? It's getting there. Let's go and have a look at the other chopping board. Other chopping board's got dough all over it, so we can't use that. Yeah, the chopping board's wonky. Just enough to make a difference.
Just enough to make a difference. But while we're here, it's making a right mess of it. So while we're here, to get the dough even thinner, what you do, you deliberately put some flour on. Like this. And then you fold it over like that. And then you roll like this. Hopefully the flour stops the pastry from sticking together, and then you have achieved a thinner filo. That's alright. That feels about the same kind of thickness as that. Oh, okay, so that works. We know that works. Yeah, it's concaved is the board, so it's not wanting to evenly roll it. This is my excuse anyway. It's shocking that I should blame my equipment rather than my... Well, it's my fault because my equipment's rubbish. So it's fundamentally my fault. That feels thinner. So that's a technique you use to get it really thin when you've got a proper chopping board. But let's have a look at this. That's nice. It's kind of a lot thinner as that. So that works. Okay, so let's cut that bit off there. We'll cut this bit here. We'll neaten off that edge there. What we're going to do, let's make them thinner. I don't want huge samosas. Should have done it in 3 bits rather than 2. But as always, I'm faffing. That there. Right. Use that side because it'll be easier to stick things. That's about the right line for that one there. That's about the right line for that one. It's good that we're doing these a smaller size as well, so we'll be able to tell the difference from the ones that were rolled out by the pasta machine. Bit of dough on the floor, but that's fine. That there, squishy down. That's a nicer size, isn't it? Squishy there, that there. That'll be properly sealed, that'll be nice. Slice off there, that's a nice one. Done a better job with that. So that one over there. 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 Over like that. That one's got another layer of pastry on it, but not to worry. Slice that off there. Fine. Will we get one out of that? Probably not. So that's fine. Let's have another go. We'll have a go with the pasta machine again. And I don't want to waste that. I reckon I can use that again, but maybe not in this video. So let's go through the pasta machine again. And then what we'll do is we'll get it. We'll see if we can roll it out after we put it in the pasta machine. So, well, that looks rubbish. video that I've sailed in a while, so it's probably a good thing that I'm making myself look like a bit of a prat. That's better. There we go. Yeah, we'll start going through properly now. That. Can't remember if I changed it. Didn't do any harm to go through a second time. So, that's what we can even do. I'm not going to even roll it by hand. I'm going to So, what we're going to do is we're going to fold this over, cover it with flour, with the corn flour and flour mixture, so it hopefully won't stick together, and then we're going to fold it over in half, like this, and then we'll be able to put it through the machine again, and hopefully it won't stick together, but it'll get the filo even thinner. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. See, here we go. Oops. Fingers crossed. I think it's worked. So, let it pull apart. It looks like it's kind of worked. There we go. That works, doesn't it? So we have now got the filo even thinner because we caked it in the flour and put it through the thinnest setting again. So that works. So you can get filo as thin as you want it, as you buy it, by using a pasta roller, and then on the last setting, because you don't get it thin enough, you can dust it in flour and put it through on the double thickness and fold it in half, put it through again, and you get a thinner filo. So that works. There you go. That's a success. That's a success. So that actually works. So me faffing around trying to roll it out, all very interesting, all very, all very kind of good, but that's the preferred method, and that's as thin as filo normally is. So there you go. That works. That works. Right. So I've just got too much stuff everywhere. I'm making a mess. So get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Try not to get this to stick together. Cut that off there. That bit's a bit broken. Oh no, we might be able to use that. So there we go. Can't use that bit because it's on. If I had more space, but we'll just whip that off there. there. There we go. Right, so let's get a samosa out of this. Or a pancake roll. Pancake roll samosa. Oh, we'll do one of each. That'll work, won't it? So that's that. The plug wants to be a bit not as wide as this, but that there, so we'll just fill it a little bit fuller. Not like that. It's probably a little bit too thin. Difficult to work with, but not to worry. So that over there. Then a bit of water there. I think they're just too big as samosas. Squish that air out. Although it might be nice and bubbly. That's that. So that works. It's a bit of a pain to work with. It's a little bit light, but there we go. Right, where are we with this? So I can feel it starting to dry out as well. I reckon we'll get 2 out of this. And I'm starving. As always, it's that time. I've been swimming. I'm just hungry. Let's fill these over. We'll overfill these. And just make sure there's plenty of pastry wrapped around them. So, that there like that. Here, a bit further back. Oh, like that. I think this would be too thin. I don't think there'll be enough pastry. But we'll see. So that'll seal it in. Making a mess. And a bit more water. Let's see how we do with those. Let's see what we do with those. Right, we'll pause, we'll get some oil on the go, and then we'll give them a fry. Oil is up to temperature because I've just done a little bit of pastry in. So let's see how we go. What we're going to do first. Let's do the bigger ones that were made of the thicker stuff. And we're going to risk it for a biscuit with 2. Yes. Puffing up. On the outside, it's got some nice bubbles in it. So, I have high hopes. That looks alright. I don't want that board a little bit too close to that. I'll just try this little bit of pastry that I fried. Nice. That's all nice and bubbly, isn't it? So it must be the way around. Oh, you know. So, you certainly don't need to buy Filo Pastry anymore. You can make your own. It's pretty straightforward with that. That recipe works. I think the pasta roller is the way forward. If I'm honest, you're certainly going to get an even thickness. And if you want to, and the last setting is kind of good enough for things like samosas. We're going to cook those spring rolls in a second, but I think it's good enough for the samosas and the spring rolls. And then if you want it thinner and you're using a pasta roller, then just like I did, loads of flour. Oh, that's not good, I just burst that bubble. Loads of flour, fold it over in half with a load of flour in between, and then put it through again, and then you get it a really, you get it as thinner even still, and you can see your fingers through it. So that's me with the Filo having your fingers through it. So yes, that your pasta roll is your best bet. I think pasta machines, it's one of those things that you always pick up in charity shops because people buy them and then never use them and then donate them to the charity shops. So you should be able to pick them up fairly cheaply. Certainly domestic ones anyway. So they look good, don't they? That's alright. Right, so let's try spring roll. So this was the thicker Filo. Turn that down a bit. And this was the thinner ones. Put them both in. Let's have a look. That's on too high. There we go. I think this is going to work. Let's get those out of the way. And then while we're cooking, we can just break into these and have a look. That's not a good sign. I think one of them slightly burst open. Yeah, the fat's got into the inside of the pancake roll. A bit of the centre is wanting to come out, and that's what's making the oil want to splash. This is why you don't cook things in. You buy yourself a proper deep fat fryer. Because cooking things on top of the stove like this is really dangerous. That's right, that's calmed down. Right, so let's have a break into one of these. Look at that, that's lovely and crispy as that. There we go. Yeah. It certainly needs, the thinner pastry is not a good idea. It certainly needs the last setting of the pasta roller. Let's take those out of there. So, the pastry is a success in my eyes. I didn't put enough filling in. As you can see, there's not really enough filling in that, which is a shame. But how does it taste? The pastry's lovely. It's lovely and crisp. Just needed more filling. Right. But we'll have a look in the spring rolls. Those were the thinner ones. This was the thicker one. Thicker ones held up really well. That's a success. There you see. That works, doesn't it? That works. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to call it a mixed success. If I'm honest, I think it's a mixed success. There has been some. The Filo's a success. The spring rolls and the samosas not so much so, but that's down to my lack of skill making spring rolls and samosas and just throwing it together more than anything else, and not really kind of thinking about things properly. But that works, doesn't it? That works. So a success to some degree, but it works. So yeah, I've done some recipes before where I used Filo, and I looked the recipe up for the Filo, and I kind of had to work it out by feel, so I didn't have a proper recipe for it. However, I now got a proper recipe for the Filo, so if my other videos that use Filo, that's the recipe that you use and how you handle it. Probably better than I did, actually. But there you go, Filo pastry.